that's irrelevant. All you do as a judge is sentence according to the law, and the person is placed by the Department of Corrections decision, taking into account the security needs, space availability, collateral factors. A judge can recommend a placement, but it's totally unenforceable. It's the executive branch that makes those decisions of placement.
I also just wanted to add, I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice, almost 12 years now. So the residential treatment programs that we have for kids that are committed are also privatized now. They're no longer state-run, just so you know.
Did everyone hear what she said?
It's terrible.
Yeah, okay.
And it is the same issue with juveniles. The judge sentences them or
Yes.
disposes of the case, it's called, by committing a child to a level of commitment with specific placement. The judge can recommend a space. And in the juvenile system, usually they try to accommodate the judge. But the decision is ultimately DJJ's to make about which facility the child actually goes to.
So is it the governor or the legislature that have privatized, and who do we need to fix it? If it's the executive branch, it's the governor, right?
True.
So
There have to be laws to allow the government to do things. So it's a combination of legislature approved by the governor.
Okay, we're going to end with kind of a double, two-pronged question here that is right along those lines. And I hope I don't screw this up. But what considerations are taken into consideration for youth, particularly minorities, with cognitive and communication deficits in juvenile justice reform, education with law enforcement, judiciary, school systems? This is coming from someone who's worked with the Department of Juvenile Justice, has been a juvenile probation officer, has experienced what she believes to be juvenile state attorneys acting unprofessionally or unethically. Are there steps that we can take to reform substandard practices of state attorneys' offices?
Just quickly, we can start rotating juvenile prosecutors. When they stay in one place too long, again, like most things, they're kind of insensitive. They stay there too long, it's just not good. It becomes every child is well, beyond that, they probably have a good heart, but they say every day they can solve all problems. They know all children, and things should be done their way because they've been there 20 years in the same position, and then it doesn't work like that so much. So I think rotating the prosecutors in juvenile court is very important.
So the question of can we do things to help the individual prosecutors become better? Absolutely. Elect better state attorneys.
And this is also partly why these fitness hearings that I mentioned earlier are so important, because with that judicial involvement, it holds prosecutors accountable. The judge now has the power to, consider certain circumstances. Like I think the question mentioned disability,
Cognitive disabilities, communication deficits.
right? So mental health and disabilities; those are things that can be considered by the judge. Yeah, factors exactly.
All right. Oh, you asked the question, so go ahead, follow up.
Sorry, thank you. I know that youth generally have comprehensive assessments and stuff like that, but sometimes their communication and cognitive disabilities, we talked about, these are kids sometimes with autism, but maybe even more of a minor deficit, not necessarily a disability. They're not being considered when engaging in law enforcement or being considered in the classrooms. These kids a lot of times get shuffled in our juvenile justice system, and we're not assessing them and treating them like we should. So how would reform on that level? I just came from the National Symposium of Juvenile Justice, so you have to forgive me. I had a couple of workshops on this.
You might want to ask Mr. Alexander. His department's been very engaged in dealing with autism and through some of his officers and special training other officers across the state of Florida, since that's such a hot button issue presently.
Throw you on the spot by handing you a microphone? It wasn't me, just remember that one.
So actually, I think it's Sergeant Donahoe that has been doing training on autism to make sure that those who are not only in the criminal justice system, but those who are in the education system understood a lot more about autism and how it can play into disciplinary issues as well as in the schools, as well as handling juvenile issues in the juvenile justice system. So that training has been ongoing. Sergeant Donahoe, I think after I retired, was reassigned to another set of duties. So he still does the training outside of his normal duties on his own time, but it's something that I think was very effective, and I think it increased the level of awareness in the community. So certainly he's available, but not necessarily through the police department. So, and that's for what I understand now since I've retired.
Pretty good for being thrown on the spot like that. Thank you all so very much. We're going to let Paula wrap up, but I thank you all for continuing to come out and support this work.
And I want to thank our 5-star panel and our 5-star moderator. Thank you very much. A couple of quick reminders. Is this on? Yes. Okay, good. I can't tell. Anyway, I want to remind you to write the postcards. If you'd like to go ahead and do that, you can leave them here with me. A couple of people have walked out with them, and I'd have to trust them that they know what to say on them. The other thing is we have books, very good books for sale here. I talked about them earlier, but here's Andre Walker, and there are her books. And so look at them and pick one up. And thank you again for coming. And this wraps it up. Thank you.